Hi, everybody. Hi. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a project. I'm not really going to talk too much about the project as the process of the project. And it's our teen room. I don't know if you guys had a chance to go walk over and see it. It's called Teens At. So the name of the project is Creating Teens At. I'm Kim Clanton-Green, the branch manager here at Las Vegas Clark County Library District. So I want to tell you how I, a branch manager who, yeah, I have some children's experience, but it's been a long time ago, got involved in creating a teen space. The library got a lovely grant, which involved a lot of Macs. So Amy, say yay, Macs, we had them. And we involved the university, Henderson District Library, Parks and Rec Department, Discovery Children's Museum, and of course the library district was administering the grant, and we were talking about how teens learn and new ways for them to learn and learning styles and how they could implement it. And we bought these Macs and we trained some staff on how to use them with the eventual thought that the teens would eventually get to use them. And they kind of sat there. And I was on that committee, and I became very, very interested. We had lots of great speakers like Mimi Ito, who's done some great work with teen learning. And as all of you who know me know, I'm not afraid to open my mouth. And yeah, you laugh now. But I was very excited about this. I thought, this is fantastic, because it's always been hard to get teens involved. And I came to see that the reason it's been hard to get teens involved is because we were doing the wrong things. And so I opened my mouth and I said a few things, and before I knew it, I was the project manager for this grant. This sometimes happens. And so what I did was I created a model where we divided the laptops up into 4 different mobile labs, and I rotated not only throughout the Las Vegas Clark County Library District, but out to Henderson District Libraries, the Parks and Rec Departments, and even the Discovery Children's Museum. After that was over, the grant's over, and we still have the labs and they're still being used, but after that was over, I looked around my own library and I said, wait a minute, I've learned all this stuff. I'm looking at what we've got. It's a huge space, it's beautiful, it's got great adult spaces, it's got great children's spaces, and the teens are kind of in no man's land, right? And they don't belong with the young kids because, you know, they're talking about teen things, and the parents don't always like that, and the kids don't always understand it, and truthfully, you don't always want them to understand it at a very young age. And when they're over in the adult area, they're making noise and having fun and being teens, which is fine, except that the adults don't like that. So I started looking around and I thought, we need a teen space. I talked about Hamago, you know, hanging out, messing around, geeking out, which is something that honestly every one of our age demographics can do, but is especially appropriate to teens. They really want a place to hang out. They want to have interest-driven learning. They want to mess around in things that they're interested in. And they need a consistent space, right? They need a space that was always going to be there for them. Not a project, not a program you do occasionally, or a project that you bring around. They needed some place where they knew if they came to the library, this was going to be there for them. Seemed really self-evident to me, right? It got turned down. Got turned down. So I looked around and I talked to my community second time around, because I wasn't going to let this die. And that's the other thing I want to say to you. If you have an idea and you see a need for it and it gets turned down, there's always a reason to turn a project down. It's like competition for resources. This is not the right time. The political climate. It doesn't matter what it is. There's always a reason to turn a project down. That doesn't mean the project has to die. So what I did was I took a look around and I talked to my community, which included not only teachers and parents, but also primarily the teens, right? I talked to my staff about what it would mean if we were going to have a teen space, what it would look like. We discussed this a lot. We spent a lot of time on this. I didn't only talk to the children's staff, I talked to the adult staff too, and the circulation staff, because I wanted this project to be a success, and we needed to do that. I researched it. In other words, what does a good teen space look like? You know, what is it? Just a room? Does it look just like an adult area? Does it look just like a kids area? Does it have bean bags all over the floor? What goes into making a good teen space? So I researched it. I did a statistical analysis of my community. So how many teens have we got here now? And, you know, and this is important because we talk about statistics like what are our statistics today, but we have a lot of children in this community, and in a few years, they're going to be teens. It's surprising, but that does happen. So I decided, yes, we needed a teen area. So after doing all of that, after talking to my staff, after talking to the teens, who, by the way, when I asked them, where do you hang out now when you're not at the library? Their answer was, oh, I don't know, Starbucks, right? Because this community, there is no Parks and Rec Center. There is no place that is not retail for teens to go to except for the library. So I decided, yeah, we needed a teen space. So again, you know, I told you I just did that, but the time between a budget proposal and the first when you first do all of this work and when it's time to propose your budget, right, there's often a big lag time behind that. And so I analyzed everything again. I analyzed my space, I analyzed my resources, I changed where I was going to put the space, right? Because if I just submitted the same thing I'd submitted before, what is the definition of madness? It's like doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting to get a different result, right? So you have to change things up. So I analyzed the space and resources. This is not clicking anymore. I'm going to hit my little button. It's not working. I did more research. Now try my button. I prepared cost estimates, and this is important because, you know, we talked about the competition for resources, which is always there. I mean, this is a large district, and there's always a project that needs to be done. Everything from like a new service to repairing a roof to putting a new air conditioner in, very, very important here. So there's always something competing with you, right? So when I did cost estimates, what I did was I did 3 different levels of cost estimates, right? It's like I called it my bare bones budget. What do I need, right, for the space? And that's a map of the space, by the way, that I used, and that's not working, but I'm gonna ignore it. No, it's touching the keyboard. So I prepared 3 different cost estimates. The very basic bare bones cost estimate, which included reusing all furniture from my building, right? Not getting new carpet, getting a couple gallons of paint and putting a sound barrier up between where the circulation help desk is and where the teen area was going to be. And the reason I even put that one in is because in talking to my staff, they said, hey, I think that that's something that we're really going to need to do, because I think for patron privacy, for noise concerns, all of that, we're going to need that sound barrier. So my very, very basic budget level was a few gallons of paint, reusing all our furniture, and that sound barrier. Second was, well, these tables are in pretty good condition. I really don't mind using those again. Like, I didn't touch it. The mic is keyboard. Here, let's move the mic over here. So the second level was, these tables are really great, in great shape. They look good. I don't mind reusing them. I'll keep this furniture. I'll keep that furniture. I'd really love some new carpeting. I'll do this and I'll do that. And that was my mid-level cost estimate. My third was, this is what we're going to need to do it right. And even with that, I was very aware of budget. It came out to, with all new furniture, new carpeting, the sound barrier between the two, between the help desk and the teens area, It came out to under $20,000, right? It was about $11,000 for all the new furniture, and then the rest was carpeting, the creation of that barrier, they put an additional door in, that kind of thing. I thought it was very reasonable. I also asked for a staff member. So, where is that? There? Okay. I'm going to put that down. I can use it now? This does not. That's right. Okay. I'm going to go back. Back. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the resources I used. Mimi Ito I mentioned before, and she was the genesis for this idea about how teen services should be approached. So her writings, Community Connect and Civic Technologies, is something that our district has, we subscribe to, and it's a great resource. It gives you all kinds of statistical information about your community, and it's done on the basis of pretty much census blocks. Business Decision, census data, the Clark County School District School Accountability Report. I don't know if they do the same thing in other school districts around the state, but the Clark County School Accountability Report, Clark County School District School Accountability Report, is one of the best resources I have ever found to analyze my community, because what it does is it breaks up by school, it breaks it up gender, it talks about ethnicity, it talks about what language is spoken at home, it talks about proficiency levels, it talks about whether or not, how many of the kids are on free and reduced lunch, and it's updated every single year, unlike some of these other statistics. So I analyze my community every year, and that is one of the resources I cannot praise highly enough. It's a fantastic resource. Nevada Kids Count Book, Las Vegas Perspective, and of course our own internal reports that we can generate. So that's what I did in terms of preparing my case. So I've been approved, now what? Oh, I forgot, there was something else that I need to mention, and with the clicker tragedy, I forgot to do that. One of the things, before I even submitted my budget, and I can't emphasize enough how important this is, I talked about this to everyone, right? Not only about my project, but I talked to everyone about the need for teen services, the need for teen space. And I talked not just to my staff and to the parents of the kids here and to the kids here about these ideas, but I talked to the people in my district who make the budget decisions, right? I talked to board members. I talked to, and with everybody's okay, I talked to board members, but I talked to my boss. I talked to the facilities director. I talked to the IT director. I talked to the director of the library district. And I, all throughout, from the time I was turned down the first time to the time I got approved for this one, I was talking about this project. Because when we submit a budget, we get a short descriptive paragraph in which we try to justify what we want to do. If I had not talked about it all year long, and all they'd gotten was that little short descriptive paragraph, what do you think the chances are that I would have gotten approved? Yeah, I mean, this way they knew exactly what I wanted to do, why I wanted to do it, what benefit would come from it, and it got approved. So, what happens after you get approved? Well, between the time of my approval and the time when they were ready to start building, it was almost the entire budget year. It was one of the last projects that was done. So I formed some community input and focus groups, again, primarily teen focus groups. I had them help me choose everything from the colors on the walls, and the way I did that was really simple. I got a bunch of swatches from Home Depot, and I laid them out on a table, and I said, I want you all to pick your favorite colors. And then they came together as a group, and the overwhelming choice was blue, second was orange. When you go into that room, you're going to see a lot of blue and you're going to see a lot of orange, right? They picked the furnishings, and how we did that was we tore pages out of magazines and catalogs, and we posted them on the wall, and we had them put a hash mark on what they liked, and they got, I think, a couple choices for desks, a couple choices for chairs. They each got to pick 2 or 3 things per category. They talked about what programming they'd like, and they got to vote for what kind of programming they'd like, and they even got input in the name. Now, the name for the area is Teens At, right, the outside. And it's not exactly what they had suggested. Some of the suggestions were Twilight, the Learnarium. My favorite was the Love Shack. There were reasons we did not choose those. The one that we actually chose was originally proposed as Teens at SW, right? SW for Sahara West. And we talked to different teens after we had narrowed things down, and we talked to different teens and we said, well, there's this one, and this one, and there's also this. And there was some concern among staff that the teens wouldn't get Teens At, right? That it was too open-ended, they wouldn't get what it meant. And really what it means is it's Teens At Creativity, Teens at Work, Teens at Play, Teens at Learning, Teens at whatever they want it to be. And so we liked the flexibility of it, but we did not make that decision on our own. We brought that back to the teens and we said, what do you think about this? And there were some grammarians among my staff who said, well, I'd really prefer it if you did Teens At and then had a blank with a period. I think that would be really the better way to go. And there were some variations on that, but the teens got Teens At. They understood it, they were happy with it, they were fine with it. So it's really important to involve community and focus groups. It's also important to let them know that you are not promising them that they will get exactly what they want, right? And so I explained to the teens about budgetary constraints, about factors such as, is the chair going to last? All of those kinds of things. I explained our whole process to them, and they got it. Again, more staff input. I had analyzed that budget to death again and again and again, because as I said, I proposed these things. When they approved my budget, they did not tell me how much they approved it for, right? It was like, yeah, your project's been approved, but we don't know how much money we're going to allocate to it at this point. And so that was a surprise to me at the very end. And at the end, they gave me everything I wanted, but I didn't know that was going to happen. Coordination and communication is absolutely key. And when I say that, I don't mean just internal, but I had to coordinate with all of the staff across the district, our facilities department, our IT department, our graphics and publicity department, and they have a lot of other things going on. So it was up to me to become the person who was looking at, keeping timelines in terms of everything together and making sure that everything got done as it needed to get done. And then we had our opening day, Teens At on Thursday, April 9th. The interesting thing about opening day is it was not the first program we had in there. So we had an opportunity, we had an anime festival that Las Vegas Clark County did at this branch, and I got a call and they said, so we're having this anime festival. I said, yes, I know. And they said, so we were wondering if we could use your teens room. And I said, well, it's not done, but it's done enough. So sure, you can use our teens room. It was a tremendous success. We had well over 500 kids here. It got a lot of attention. The room wasn't perfect. Who cares? The kids did not care. It was packed. And that was more publicity for that new room than we could have paid for. So it's important you can't always wait till things are absolutely perfect and the way you want them. Sometimes you have to take an opportunity and jump on it, and that's what we did. What do you do for opening day? You publicize. Time? I'm going to hurry. You publicize. So we had several newspaper articles and a television interview. We program. You can see some of the programs there. And you celebrate. We made sure that we had a caterer there. Instead of just a sheet cake, there was a caterer on the full-on tuxedo, that whole thing. It was a celebration. Again, it was packed. Don't do this when you program. It's going to kill any kind of hope for a successful program you have. Talk to the teens about the programs they want. Develop an informal way for them to give input. What we do is we have a glass door and we let them write right on the glass what they want. We do surveys on that glass sometimes. We ask them about programs they want, and they'll do little hash mark voting for it. Have both meaningful and fun programming. Meaningful programming, one of the programs we did was a quilting program, and the kids ended up making a finished quilt, and they donated it to Shade Tree Shelter for a mother who was going to be having twins. Budget, again, you always have to look at your budget, but there are ways that you can work around budget. Donated materials are great. We have a sewing machine. We have a lot of donated material for crafts using that. Develop partnerships. Track your successes and failures, and be flexible. And I'm going to speed through this. So the results: increased number of teens at the library, less frictions between age groups. I need to tell you this story. Okay, so we'd been open for less than 2 weeks, and it was going pretty well. And staff were, there were always staff who were very excited about it, staff who were very accepting about it. I'd done a lot of work to try to create acceptance and buy-in, and there was a lot of excitement, but there were still some staff who were like, I'm not sure about this. So about 2 weeks into the opening of the room, we had the ramen incident. So this teen had apparently overdosed on top ramen and vomited all over the program room and the computer, the tables, the chairs, into the main teen space, and even in front of the entry doors to the space. There was little white ramen noodles everywhere. It was disgusting. So I had to close that room down. I closed the room down, locked it up, sent the teens back up to the children's department, or they could always go into the adult department if they wanted. The next day I talked to my staff. I said, how did it go? They said, oh my God. I didn't realize what a difference having a separate teen space made. And these were some of the people who were kind of iffy about having the teen space. They said the atmosphere was so different. We didn't realize what a difference that having that separate space made. And people who had been kind of on the fence about the project, all of a sudden were loving the fact that we had a teen space. We have an increase in teen programming. We've only been open a few short months, and we've had 11 programs, 381 teens, and 34.6 teens on the average at programs, which for teen programs is pretty damn good, right? That's not every program. Thank you. Some programs get much fewer. Some programs have been really heavily attended, but that's a pretty good average, and we're happy with it. Then we're talking about, these are some of the programs that we have had, and again, I'm just going to zoom through it, and these are some of the upcoming programs that we're going to be doing. One of the things I want to talk to you about, I'm going to go back with that one. One of the things I want to talk to you about is open mic night. So we're going to be having open mic night. When I talk to teens, it's one of the things that some of them expressed interest in. I talked to my staff about it recently, and they said, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know. We've never run one. I don't know what we're going to do. And it's like, so what are you concerned about? Well, what if nobody comes? Then you don't have the program, So what if only a few people come? Then only a few people come. We can try to grow the program. We can see what happens. Well, what if people only come to watch? It's like, well, if you're really uncomfortable with the idea that nobody's going to you really think nobody's going to participate, you can have a backup program. You can show a movie, you can show clips from open mic nights or poetry slams or whatever from across the country. I know that stuff is available. It's like, I said, well, why don't we ask the teens again? So we did our glass door survey, and overwhelmingly, questions were, would you come to an open mic night? Yes. Would you perform? Yes. Would you just want to watch? Yes. There is not a lose to this situation, right? Worst thing that happens, nobody shows up, and we don't have to do the program, right? It's amazing to me, our earlier presenters were talking about fear of change, fear of doing something different, fear of failure. What, Amy, what is going to happen? You know, honestly. We are investigating partnerships with places like Best Buy Foundation as well. So I want to say it's not your vision. So you can't get so invested in what you think it should be that you ignore the people it's meant for, which are the teens. So you need teen input. You need staff input, because these are the people who are going to make this successful or not, right? If your staff don't like what's going on, they can kill a mood faster than anybody. They can not support it. It needs staff support, and then therefore it needs staff input. You need data. You need to figure out what you're doing. You need to analyze what you're doing. You need to reanalyze what you're doing. You can't just do something and then think that's all you're ever going to have to do forever. And you need to change. If it's not working, change it. If you need to freshen it up, change it. This is the room before. It was our international languages room. This is the room after. That big orange wall, you see that blank space on the far side? One of the things we're going to do with that orange wall is have a teen mural contest about every 6 months. And the teens will design a mural. We'll get it printed up in vinyl. We'll put it up on the wall. And it'll stay there for a while. In 6 months, we'll change it. And that way the room is always fresh. It's always new. It's always relevant to the teens who are coming there now, as opposed to the teens who came there 5 years before, right? Again, that's the main room. There's the lab before. We didn't do much to change this room because it was so beautiful. It was a seldom used meeting room before. And that's the lab now. You'll see that the teens, we've gotten some new, more mobile furniture, and that's important. I don't know if you noticed, but the furniture here is all pretty easily movable. It is never, when I come in the morning, it is never in the same position it was the day before. That's okay. So the teens are decorating it. They have different Post-its on the wall. They have different art projects on the wall. So how do you be a leader or an advocate? I like to think of myself for this project as a passionate advocate. Leader for me, it can sometimes have the connotation that you're out there doing it alone, you know, the lone voice for it, and really without the input of staff, without their efforts, without the input of my community, this would not have been successful. So you have to have a vision for what you want to do. You have to know, it's not enough to have an idea, you have to research it and make sure that you have a basis for it, that you have your facts behind you. You have to communicate that vision to everyone, to your public, to your staff, to the people making decisions above you. You need good communication skills. You need to reevaluate things constantly. Just because it's open now doesn't mean it's going to be the same space 6 months from now. We need to constantly reevaluate it. We need to plan, we need to implement, and we need to change. One last thing, because Robbie's about to take the hook and drag me away. What I would like to say to all of you is that I'd like to challenge all of you to find something that you're passionate about. Find a situation. It can be a small one. It can be in your library. It can be in your personal life. It can be at church. It can be at home. It can be whatever. But find something you're passionate about and start implementing these steps, right? And pretty soon you'll find that you are leading a change. You're making a difference. And you can really help your vision come into fruition just by following these really, really simple steps. It doesn't have to be big, but if you start small, you'll start graduating to bigger and bigger and bigger projects. So thank you.
There we go. Okay, my name is Sena Loyd. I'm the Carson City Library Director. One of the things that I wanted to just point out from this last presentation is though your teens are going, or your children are going to be turning into teens, what do they turn into after teens? Adults. Voting adults. When we go out and try and do a bond, when we're trying to get money for our library, it's important for our community to know why. And if they've been impacted by the library in some way, they can help explain that why to the community. So the first thing here, what I'm going to mainly be talking about is how we got to where we are today in the Carson City Library. There are some of you that may know, some of you like John has been down to our library a few times, so I know he knows what's going on down there. But we've taken essentially a space that is old. Our newest edition is from 1983. Happens to be the year I was born. And really works with what we have. So what started all of this, and it started before I became the library director, or even I moved into the community. And I just want to read you a quote and see if you guys can guess who it is. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful and committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Yeah. Margaret Mead. So when we're talking about this change, this room, your community, a few people in your community can really impact what is happening in your community. So again, before I came on board, the school district, so Carson City School District, started a 5-year strategic planning process. And how they did that was community meetings. They brought the community in and said, what do you need from us? How do you want us to educate your children? We happen to be one of the worst school districts in Nevada, let alone the country. What can we do? And what was developed out of this was a plan that emphasized partnerships with other community entities, including the library. So the library strategic planning process also developed those partnerships and developed it in a way, we're a city entity. Carson City is a municipality, so we're a city county. But it developed a way for us to be able to impact our community without having strings attached beyond, you know, what our community was. So for instance, our board of supervisors and the school board meet on a regular basis due to these two strategic plans, due to the strategic plan of Carson City. And what that's done is create an opportunity for us to be the city's offering to the education world of this is what we have to offer, and we've embraced that. So we've involved our community. Here you will see our mayor creating music on a Mac. This was one of our open houses, but one of the ways that we really embraced showing our community what was going on is getting the leaders that we knew cared to care. To care and understand what we were doing so that we could continually do this without having as much opposition as we may have had if we had not. So there's myself meeting with Loyd, who is the head of the Boys and Girls Club at the time. So it wasn't just the school district that this partnership was with. It happened to be the main focus of our partnership and of the LSTA grant, but these kids are impacted by other areas of the community. They're served by other entities, but they also go to school at the school district. So again, we also did normal library things. When you ask somebody, well, what do you think the library does? We offer school tours. But instead of just showing them the books, we show them everything that we do have to offer. So this is historic in the state of Nevada. I still haven't been able to find any other states or communities that have their board of supervisors or county commissioners meeting with their school district a joint public meeting with the Library Board of Trustees and our community college. But this is what we did in 2013. We had key individuals, one of which is in the room, at this meeting. The others you'll see on the top are from UNR and the University of Nevada, Reno, not too far away from us. And at the time, Dale Arqueagua, the State Superintendent of Education. This is the overflow waiting room because we have so much interest in these community meetings, in the joint resolution, in what we were going to do as a community to better the education of our students. So what was also announced at this was a digitorium, and we created the word. Great. Spell check hates it. So we were looking at, previous to this, in 2012, a failed measure to build a new library. The community said, not no, but heck no. It failed 68%, said no. So we're looking at it going, what can we do to use the space that we have? And we had an auditorium space a little bit smaller than the room that we're in right now that was only being used during programs. What a waste of space. So what we ended up doing, and mind you, this design right here is created by a high school student on the computers that we have in our library in AutoCAD. We put together, for the sum of $55,000, a space that we could use multi-purpose, so we could still use for programs, but we could also use for our teams and for educational, Common Core focused learning. This is another shot of that meeting. And this is what we did in the days after that 2013 meeting. We worked with our National History Day teachers at the high school. We've done GATE programs, Young Brains on Summer. So outside of the school district, it's still a partnership with the school district to try and keep literacy and digital literacy skills elevated. And the Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada. So here is a National History Day. You saw that picture before, my fault. This is in the school at the National History Day, teaching a class. We had the opportunity to take classes over and teach them about technology and how they could use technology in projects that they were doing in National History Day, which I'm happy to say that this last year, 8 from this Nicole Fagundes' class went on to nationals in DC, and we helped them with those projects. So this is pretty awesome. So this is a board meeting. We have Discover Tech here in the background, but we have Nicole Fagundes here presenting the library with Business of the Month from the school district. So there was enough recognition. We have an advocate in the school willing to say, we support what you're doing, and I'm going to apply to the school district to show them how much we support what you're doing. So we then brought in Discover Tech, Engineers Make a World of Difference. Carson City is the capital, and we happen to have the Nevada Department of Transportation in the capital, and we do have a lot of engineers in Carson City. And so this was a great opportunity to not only be the partner with the school district, but to be the partner with the school district that also partnered with a bunch of other partners to have programs such as this, where we have the superintendent. You make sure that if you are doing something special, that you make that connection with them so that they can better support you, so they know what's happening. We also have a school board trustee here who is a huge advocate for libraries. We also have these are all the former state engineers. So our Digitorium grand opening. As you saw, that was in our auditorium. We had Discover Tech in that space. As we were doing construction to make it a digitorium, we were magical, and it worked. But we opened the space to the teens and have received an LSTA grant to help freshmen learn digital literacy skills and build online portfolios. And it was called Online on Time. And what we did is we have booths, we have all kinds of things. You want to talk to me about putting some of this stuff together, I can do that later. But again, we had our community there. We had our supporters from the school district. We had our board of supervisors. We had our library board. And they all knew why it was important. Sometimes board members might seem too busy, but they really do care, and they really do want to know what's going on in the community. And if you can make that connection for them, it's even easier for you to do what you want to do. So we also went into the high schools, school librarian level. We partnered with the school district, but we also partnered with the high school librarian. And we taught classes. Well, I didn't. This is Molly. Molly is our Online on Time coordinator, currently our digitorium coordinator, because we were able to keep that position after the grant was finished. But she's a certified teacher on our staff. So she can not only just go teach these students how to create a PSA, their teachers can go do professional development or do other activities while she's teaching them, and teaching them to Common Core standards, and their projects were mapped to what they needed to learn in their freshman orientation class, and their health class. Again, another shot. That many kids sitting quiet in a room. They must be interested in something. So we also so the classes were taught at the beginning of the year, and actually Molly just finished this week teaching 2 of the first classes to the next group of 130 freshman students who will be coming to the library. But it's close enough that they can walk, and so they would come over to the library and use the digitorium space during class hours to work on their projects. So it became an off-site classroom, one where they could explore, they could have fun learning, but also in the context of what the school district needed to do to make sure that they were still learning. We're Molly talking to some of the kids here. This is our portable MacBook station. We have 24 MacBook Pros that live here. The teens do have another space in the library. Just wanted to throw that out there. But they do use this space mostly during the school year, not necessarily, not during the school year. But as you can see, on this particular day, there was only one there. There was only one there because it fell on the ground. Yeah, we had to take it to the Apple Store. So the joint resolution meetings continue. Here's another meeting in February. We're actually here, this is Platt from Weinberg Machining in Carson City. We're introducing at this meeting our new grant, which is our Nevada's Working Capital, which is a manufacturing technician grant. Want to compliment Washoe County for not participating in the grant with us, but also participating in the manufacturing technician. And I encourage you guys to talk to us about that if you have any questions. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go a little fast here. But again, you see all of these people who normally would not meet together, meeting together to discuss education in our community. So these are the resources here. If you want to access any of the strategic plans, the Race to the Top grant that the school district did win for being one of the worst. They were ranked #1 because of their partnerships in the grant, including the library partnership. And our website here too. Now.
Good afternoon. I'm Arnie, Maurins, Director of the Washoe County Library System, and I'm here to talk about our LSTA grant for idea and experience boxes. We are just now in the process of rolling out these boxes at the branches. I think they've been out for a week or two. So some of the things I was asked to talk about as far as roadblocks, successes, and failures, some of it's going to be kind of educated guesswork. So just bear that in mind. So in late 2013, we had an internal group formed called the Maker Services Committee, and they were charged with coming up with a plan for our maker services, how we get involved in the maker movement. It started out with only 4 of our senior staff. It's since expanded to so we have representatives from all the branches that participate in maker services. So we do have the staff buy-in from that point. So while they were meeting, we got involved with the Reno Mini Maker Fair. I believe it was June of 2014 was the first one. We got involved as being ticket sellers for the event, so that kind of established us as a participant for the Mini Maker Fair. And then in August of 2014, our Spanish Springs branch hosted what they called a Techaway Fair, which included a lot of maker organizations in the area, including Carson City Library, De La Mare Library from Lenore, First Robotics Group, the Northern Nevada Tool Library, and then also we had a lot of our groups that used the library for knitting, crocheting, that sort of thing. And they all had tables in the library, and a lot of them did demos as well. And then this past May, we had our own table at the Reno Mini Maker Fair, and where we offered create your own poetry. We had a button making machine and building activities. So the idea and experience boxes are kind of the next step in our plan. We're kind of gradually going from more passive to more active, and lower tech to higher tech, and this is kind of it's one of our it's the next step in our plan. It's kind of low to medium tech, and the objective is to try to get patrons to engage in creative activity so they can create things, create objects, and also create positive experiences when they come to the library. This is the list of the 8 boxes that we received with the grant money. I'll just go through them real quick. Learn to paint, as you would guess, it's a set of materials for oil painting. It has DVDs in it on how to paint. People can make their own artwork and either post it in the library or take it home with them. Building Now and Then has a lot of different building materials, Legos, Tinker Toys, that kind of thing. People can build whatever they might want to do. The Zoom is transportation theme. Kids can build car tracks, train tracks. You can build balsa airplanes. Fit for Fun has a lot of low stress fitness equipment, along with books and DVDs on fitness. It's designed to be used. You don't have to have special gym clothes. You can just come in and use them. Go the places you'll go is it's a map where you can post where you've been, where you've traveled, or where you'd like to go. The photo booth is designed for people can take pictures of themselves. There'll be props, there'll be backgrounds they can use so they can take pictures of themselves in various situations, various environments. Music Station has, I believe, a couple of guitars, a keyboard, and a drum set, and people can try out. And then Survivor is based on kind of building on the popularity of the Survivor TV show, and along with the young adult fiction like Hunger Games and Divergent. People can build things like a marshmallow shooter or a catapult. We'll have paper on the wall and ask people to write down what they think they might need in case of an apocalypse. So those are the 8 boxes we have. We have 8 branches participating, so each branch will host one of these for a month, and then it will move on to another branch in the rotation schedule. So as I say, the boxes are kind of the next step in our plan. This year, in addition to the boxes, we'd also like to look at some different new technologies. We're looking at things like 3D printers as a possible thing to offer, customizing some library spaces to make them more amenable to maker-type activity, looking at trying to pilot a mini media lab if we can get the resources to do that, and also possibly hosting additional maker-type programs. And then in future years, we're going to take the feedback from the boxes and refresh them, put in different things, keep the things that work, change the things that didn't work, looking at a full-scale media lab, and then also, if all goes well, we will get a new library in the North Valleys area in a couple of years, and we would like to plan to have a full-service makerspace in that building. So as far as leadership of the project, of course, the Maker Services Committee developed our plan. They kind of conceived of this idea and experience box project. We have staff at each of the branches who identified a theme for 8 different themes and kind of figured out what would go into each box to fill out that theme. And then the managing librarians at each branch are responsible to make sure it gets set up. They monitor the use, they promote the use, and then they make sure it gets moved on to the next branch. And as far as our engagement with the community in this project, as I said, we got a lot of feedback from the Mini Maker Fair and the Tech Away Fair, which helped put this application together. We're going to promote the boxes through social media. Primarily right now we're using Facebook and Twitter. We are going to look at expanding to Pinterest and Tumblr. We also have, we've developed a brand that we're putting all of our maker services under, called Studio 775. And so anything that we put out, any collateral, any promotional material will have that brand on it if it has to do with maker services. And then in October, I think it's on the 10th, we're going to host an open house that has all 8 of the boxes, so people can come and look at them, and that'll be at the South Valleys Library. We'll also be doing surveys, getting feedback from people as they're using the boxes. What do they like? What don't they like? What would they like to see more of? Asking those kind of questions. I was asked to talk about roadblocks. These aren't really roadblocks. I kind of look at them as speed bumps of varying heights. The first one was we had applied to get a photo booth with every single box. So we had applied for 8 photo booths. The LSTA, the council that looked at the LSTA applications, was reluctant to fund that many, so I think we ended up with 4. One on its own, and then 3 others that would support the other 7 boxes. We, as we started ordering the stuff that goes into the boxes, we realized this is going to be a little harder to move around than we thought. You got to make sure that every single piece is accounted for and packed up, and then at the other end it is unpacked, and that things don't get lost in transit, things don't get broken. So that'll be something that we deal with as we go forward, and I'm sure as we go through the rotation, our staff will figure out workarounds and tricks to make sure that, that things get where they're supposed to get, when they're supposed to get there. We had a liability issue with the fitness box. There is some equipment in there that our risk management people were not thrilled about. So we are going to ask people who use the fitness box to sign a hold harmless agreement. And then space considerations, every branch is different. Every branch is going to display each box differently. No two branches are alike, so that's just going to be something we need to work with. Branches will just have to be creative in figuring out the best way to display each box at their location. So as I say, we've only had these out for a couple of weeks, but from the reports that I've heard, patrons are engaged, especially the younger ones. This picture is from the Incline Village Library. They have the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles box right now. We also, the success I think is the partnerships that we've developed with the Mini Maker Fair participants and the Techaway Fair participants. I think we have a better understanding of the role they play, and in turn I think they have a better understanding of how libraries can help support maker service activity. And as far as expected successes, when we wrote the grant, we did indicate that we wanted to try to target teens and young adults. We think that they're a good market for this kind of activity. And for those of you who are familiar with Community Connect market segments, we identified inner city tenants and Crossroads, those two groups, as particular groups that we could try to reach out to get them to use the boxes, come in and use the library, and become new patrons. We're also hoping, based on the feedback that we get from people who use the boxes, that they'll generate some new ideas for new activities, new boxes, new maker type events that we might host or collaborate on with other organizations. And this is not a success or a failure, but I'm sorry, question?
I just was thinking, so with the boxes, what's the idea to generate customers, patrons, versus meeting the needs of those who are currently frequently to the library?
Yeah, it's both. I think it's both. We're trying to draw in people who might not otherwise use the library, and we're also trying to engage the people there who are already coming as well. Since we've only been out for a couple weeks, I don't really have any failures to report yet, but there is a fact of life. It's not a success or a failure, it's a fact of life, and I was just reminded about this last night. Got my first email complaining about the music box, the music station box, because the person said, who's the person who thought of putting a drum set in the library? I think it was a woman. She said, this is really not, this is rude, because libraries are not nightclubs or concert halls or something like that. So it's, you're not going to please everyone. I think you just have to explain what your philosophy is, what you're trying to do, and if it's that important to the person that they can't deal with it, they just won't come to the library for that 1 month until the next box comes in. So we've had complaints about people. We've had complaints about programs that involve drums. With that, at least you got a little warning that they're going to be there. But again, it's just something that we're going to have to deal with going forward. Not everyone's going to like every single box to the same degree, and we'll just deal with those complaints and compliments as they come. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Platt. I'm the manager of the Green Valley Library in Henderson. And I'm here to talk to you today to tell you about my project, or our project, Generation STEAM. And as you can see up there, our logo stands for Science, Technology, Art, Engineering, and Mathematics. So I'm just going to flip through some photos for you here. All right, this is a picture from one of our kickoff events that we did with this. We had partnered with a local makerspace called the Sin Shop here in Las Vegas. At the time, it was the only makerspace here in town. And they helped us plan and coordinate 3 simultaneous kickoff events for the summer reading of 2014. As you know, that was a science theme. So we brought in all kinds of things: 3D printers, plastic doodlers, a Rubik's Cube, which is with fire, and it's hooked up to like a little electronic music box, like a iPod, and it's sort of like an equalizer that goes up and down. You can see here that a lot of the attendees of these programs are very engaged. This is children observing the 3D printer for the first time. We had a young man trying his hand at flying a glider. And then we did some electronics workshops. This one here is a mother and daughter working the multimeter to measure electronic current. And we had some drawing robots called Doodlebots. And this is a chemistry experiment where the participants made elephant toothpaste. And then we had some of the older generation here from the community helping out the kids to understand mechanical engineering using Legos. So what was Generation STEAM, or what is it? Basically, it was an $89,000 LSTA grant. And I don't know if you're familiar with the LSTA grant cycle, but every year we're asked for ideas, and we go up and we compete for grants, hearing about it. And so what we had done is they were already had this idea for doing this. Let's bring science into story times and make it like really fun and hands-on. And at the same time, back in 2013, I visited a makerspace for the first time. And I went down there, and they were like 3D printing and making puppets and using electricity to do like a Tesla coil thing. And I just thought it was like the coolest thing ever, just the kind of energy down there. I was like, man, if I could just bring this to the library, wouldn't that be so cool? So I proposed this idea to my boss. Let's do some workshops where people are doing hands-on stuff with science, and let's use some grant money to do this. She's like, oh, by the way, did you know the Children's Department's already writing a grant for science story times? And so then we got this brilliant idea, well, let's just combine the grants into this one big, massive grant, and that will do some workshops. So we ended up doing 9 different themes. Basic electronics, mechanical engineering, renewable energy, 3D printing, soldering, chemistry, and some early photography methods using early principles of photography, cyanotypes. We ended up working with a bunch of different people. CSN, College of Southern Nevada, some businesses in town, local motors, the Las Vegas Legos users group, kids in tech, the college, let's see, it says SEPTA, which is the Southeast Prairie Technical Academy. And the way the leadership part of it went down was once we got the grant, we were so excited and we formed a little committee. And the committee was headed up with myself and interested staff and members of this nonprofit makers group. And we planned these workshops, and we also, I and my co-writer of the grant, who was dealing with the storytime aspect of it, were responsible for getting everyone kind of excited about weeding the collection of science materials, which was outdated, and buying the new books and materials for that. So there was a collection development part of it, which was the main part of the grant. But over the grant period, which was 1 year, we added 1,500 new titles. We had 116 story times for ages 2 to 8. And we had the 36 workshops based on the 9 scientific categories. And over 10,000 people attended throughout this time period, which is really awesome. But the outcome of that was all the people, well, not all, but most of the people that attended these things and interacted with us demonstrated increased confidence about these subjects, and they expressed the desire to go further with this stuff and use a parent or caregiver as a guide using the library's resources. One of the classes we did was physics, where they learned about the trajectory of rockets. And so we had them hooked up to this air compressor, and they were flying rockets. And one of the mothers came up to me and said, you know, my daughter has had such increased confidence because of this rocket she built. It was like this little girl, you know, maybe about 4 years old, and she was launching this rocket, and it was like the rocket that went the furthest and the highest. And she was just so thrilled. In fact, I've never seen people more thrilled in a library setting during these programs and so excited than this. I think maybe the only other time was when I gave the kids rides in the library book drop down the hallway. But I loved it. I mean, it was just, okay, so the people in the community were seeing this stuff, and they were like, how can I help? I had a pilot, a professional pilot. He's like, you know, we should do something on aeronautics. And so he ended up helping us out with that. We were just picking out volunteers and partners left and right. And so it sort of became a challenge to manage all these various partners. And how do you do that when the interest is like, it's so great. It's just like you're riding this wave. And so some of the things that I found out from this was that, okay, you're not going to meet all your goals. Obviously, one of our goals was to decrease the age of our collection, which we did, but it wasn't quite by the number we had hoped for. And that was partly because of staff time. But, you know, that was one of the things that we ran into. Another thing was you have these partners, okay, like that you're working with, and they're part of your admin group, and they're saying, well, let's do it this way. And you're like, well, the library's interest is this, you know. We want to put on these educational things, and they're like, well, you know, we want money for a space. And so how do you handle that? How do you handle their interests? And so defining roles at the very beginning of the grant is helpful. Okay, so this is what we want out of it. and this is what you want out of it, so keep that in mind as we go forward. And you want to involve everyone from the get-go, even before you're writing the grant, with the ideas in the grant. That means your IT department, that means your administration. Everyone has to know about how it's going to affect them potentially. That way they'll be more easily engaged with, supporting your project, because if you suddenly spring on a branch manager that you want to build this huge interactive display tower in the middle of her library, chances are you're going to get a no. But maybe if they see that excitement and they see it happen, and they see the excitement that it generates in the participants, they'll want to do it. So the result, the outcomes of this grant, well, everyone was so excited about it that we ended up getting private individual in Henderson who owned a business, saw it and read about it in the local media and gave us $25,000 more to continue it. And then Angela, my boss, was able to convince our foundation, who normally likes to support this children's, things, materials, to give $25,000 more to continue this. So, right as of now, we are having these monthly programs for all ages. And what it is just this hands-on stuff. It's the stuff we've always done. We open a book and we have people do an activity. We're taking the information out of the book and we're having them do it right in the library. And so I would say, for all of you out there that may be having second thoughts about getting out there and doing stuff, just do what you can. And if things come up along the way, don't let it hinder you. Just do it. That's my talk. So,
Run!